If I say the word clutter, you may wince. We typically think untidy and overwhelming, right? Well, what if I told you that clutter is trending in the design world? A recent article in House Beautiful magazine introduced the idea of intentional clutter, calling the design style not messy, but curated. They even went as far as to predict it as the biggest design trend of the year. This idea piqued our interest, so we tapped into our talented pool of interior designers to get their take on the topic. From functional displays of found items to the lived-in aesthetic, we loved their advice to making this style work in our own homes. Kicking off the concept is designer Amber Dunford.
My advice for creating a more intentional clutter, maximalist space that doesn't feel overwhelming to live in is to create these intentional moments where you have these visual breaks as you move throughout the home. And these areas don't need to be full rooms. They can be as simple as just having a clean wall space or an entry area that's more minimally styled, or maybe even it's an uncluttered hallway that really opens up to the surprise of your intentionally cluttered space. This is a really similar concept to retail spaces where we tend to miss all of the merchandise up front and we ignore it because we're looking past it to see what is beyond that down the store. And so we kind of scan the length of the space. So creating these visual breaks in between areas really helps the flow of the space, and it helps that more maximally designed room feel even more fun and special. Humans really like being pulled into a space by having something that draws them into a room. And so that can be fun wallpaper, curated art wall, just like a cool collection of tchotchkes that you have on a shelf. So when we see this from the vantage point of an uncluttered space, it gives us the opportunity to appreciate it more, and it actually gives it more attention and makes it feel more special. We actually tend to scan very cluttered spaces more than we do cleaner spaces because we just give it a little bit more attention to see if anything's changed that might warrant our attention. And so it can be a bit mentally exhausting to live in more intentionally cluttered spaces where every room has that. So you really do need to work in these visual breaks, just to kind of save yourself from that mental exhaustion. Having these breaks not only lets your maximalist rooms shine, it's ultimately better for your mental health. So win-win.
Hi Studio 5, it's Melissa from Brass House Interiors here. My tip on having intentional clutter in a home is to make sure that you are still using various sizes of things. So if you're wanting to display a lot of things and kind of get that intentional clutter feel, make sure you have different heights and varying heights and different variants of objects, because if everything is the same size, that's when it starts to feel super cluttery, claustrophobic cluttery, I don't know, there's just too much going on here. So if you're making sure you're using different sizes and different shapes in your area and in what you're designing, then I think that's what helps it to feel more thought out and also helps it to feel not so overwhelming and not so claustrophobic. So those are my tips. I hope to see you soon.
Hey, it's Joseph Ward with Homer Design. I love the idea of intentional clutter and this space that kind of feels lived in. So to create intentional clutter, there's a couple of things that come to mind. One of which is to have a variety of textures and colors. So you might have, so you don't necessarily have to have a lot of clutter. You could have sofas, chairs, pillows, drapes, rugs with a lot of patterns. And they obviously shouldn't be competing with one another, but they could be complementary to one another. Another great way to do it is to have layers. So you might have one thing in front of another. So you might have a sofa, and behind the sofa you have lamps on a console table, and behind that you have a picture frame, and on both sides of that you have drapes, and on the table in front of the picture frame you have another picture frame that's not hung up, it's just leaning there. You might have bowls or vessels, just things that hold things. You might have things like that. I love intentional, deliberate stuff, little trinkets, little things that are important to you, as well as I love old family photos. Another thing that I love to do is stacks of things. And so you could do stacks of books. I think that's a great one. Maybe they're on the floors, they're in the corners, they're on shelves.
Intentional clutter is a design trend in 2025, but it's been an important part of styling for decades. To achieve this look, take your collections and group them together throughout your home. So here you can see we have a collection of topiaries and a collection of copper. In another corner of my kitchen, I have a collection of cutting boards and a collection of cake stands. To achieve maximal visual interest, you're going to want to vary your collections with textures and heights and items.
I love this idea that designers are talking about this year about intentional clutter and organizing the items in your home to make them look organized, to give personality to your home so that it doesn't look cluttered and messy. So I had this idea to do this in my kitchen. I wanted some open shelving to showcase not only the things that I use every day, but some pretty items to make it look like a statement in the kitchen. So anyone can do this. I had kitchen cupboards that doors that were on these shelves that looked like this. I took those off, painted these shelves inside. So now we've got open shelving to display functional items. So we've got plates, glassware, bowls, the things that we use every day. But adding in some pretty items, candles, a plant, kitchen linens, different things that will make it look interesting and pull together and add some personality without it looking messy and cluttered.
All right, there you go. The designers are saying we can do it. Now you've got permission.